Morning, Mark. The first time I said good morning to you when I first met you, you were in Atlanta. That was 3 years ago. After that, we
That's
got,
right. It was Atlanta. That's right.
it
I
was
remember that now.
Atlanta. It was the first
Yeah.
episode of mine was in Atlanta. I think we had you were there to promote the book on your son, and you were there.
Yeah, my son had a book about being a surviving son. His brother, of course, my
Yeah.
son also got killed in Afghanistan, so he was promoting his book with all this TV station. And so that's why I was in Atlanta. That's right.
You were
Exactly.
in
Yeah.
Atlanta, and then subsequently, I used to say good morning to you when you were in Arizona. And congratulations on you moving to North Carolina.
Yeah,
And
we just
good
moved in
morning.
November.
Good morning to you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're happy here. So far so good. We like it here, and now we have four seasons instead of one. In Arizona, you only have one season. So, but we liked Arizona as well, but we had a lot of different reasons to move, and here we are. So, yeah, and so we're
So,
doing good.
so we have moved from Atlanta. You have moved from Atlanta to Arizona to
Well, I was
North
visiting
Carolina.
Atlanta. I wasn't really living in Atlanta. I was just in a hotel, I think, when I
I
talked to
remember
you.
that. I remember that.
Yeah.
And you told me you were there on a promotion of, or you were helping out your son for that. And good
Right.
Scott has joined your organization. That's what I heard. That his Scott is with you all.
Yes. Yes. He is heading up all of our AI initiatives for education and e-learning and all that. So we got some pretty good things coming up at Lean Horizons in the future. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's extremely good that I'm sorry for this. That well, I learned a lot of lean, etc., from you. I'm really surprised that you have taken over hosting a podcast from me. Are we competitors or we are collaborators in this?
Yeah, you started taking market share from me, and I had to come in and do my own podcast. Uh,
Come on, nobody can take market share from you. And thanks for coming to India. Nice meeting you in India. It was so nice to see you at the
I
airport.
should be coming to India. I think I will let you know, of course, but I should be coming to Mumbai in April. I think right now. So we definitely got to get back together when I
Sure,
come over.
and I'm there in US in July. So let's move out to our topic and standard work. And you
Hey,
know
Dr. M, at the end of the year, we're going to be sick of each other.
that we'll talk about sickness. I had enough of it for the last 2 years. So
No, 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 no,
so
no. I won't talk
standard
about
work,
sickness. No, no.
standard
You
work.
look good today. You look good. So,
You
okay.
are go. You would drive a dragger through me if I don't do standard work. So I'm going to do standard work.
Okay.
Here we go. Here we go, Mark.
Okay.
It's Dr. M's lounge. One thing that we do in the lounge is that all my guests share their champagne in their respective residence or where they are. And what we're going to talk about, this is a prelude because the launch is going to come 2 weeks or a week from now. We'll decide the date, but we're going to talk about the business language essentials for continuous improvement professionals. This is a 101 session. Uh, this came up because of Ovi Contrast. When he came up on my show, it was also on a launch, which is he talked about the dilemma faced by the continuous improvement employee in an organization. That is, he named it employee, and he's very particular the dilemma that they have to undergo be within the organization, and unlike an external consultant. And one of the things that he said is the problem is faced when the continuous improvement professional not able to convince the CEOs or CEOs because the language that the CEOs or CFOs are used to are business language, and the CI professional find it a little difficult to express themselves in those terminologies, etc. So you're the best that I am aware of who would talk on both the sides of lean and the finance and the commercial part of it. So there you go, Mark. You're going to do this prelude, and we are on the 12th episode. And nobody, I mean, you don't require an introduction, but standard work, you're going to kill me if I don't do the standard work. President and CEO of Lean Horizon Consulting. A lean pioneer and architect of Danaher Business System, recognized as a pioneer in the area and is known as one of the Fab Fives in lean accounting community. So you bridged both the gaps. So, and Mark, you're not new to me. We started way back in Atlanta. Here we go. This is the first episode that we had, and you did
That's the
one, two,
first one.
three.
That's the first vodcast,
Yeah, that's the first podcast.
right?
Then we traveled to the Toyota Production System, 10 rules, and then how Iwata influence, and then we went to lean accounting, standard work. We did it in two parts, and
Right.
then you were when we had the other format called SMET, we did with uh, Mark Falcon. So you have been with me for 8 episodes, and we're going to continue our journey further. But
Yeah.
today,
Matter of fact, I'm
let's
going to be seeing Mark. I'm going to Poland in April
yeah.
to personally meet with Mark Forkin. So we haven't physically met yet, but we've been colleagues across the pond. So looking forward to that trip too.
Yeah, and his book has come out. It's
Yeah,
pretty.
yeah.
So over to you. This is a prelude, and over to you, Mark. Thanks a lot for accepting the invitation and being there for me. Here we go.
Okay. Well, Dr. Brown, you and I have talked about a lot of things, quite frankly, over the years since we've known you. And if people don't know that Dr. M, I created Dr. M. I just got to take credit for that because Dr. M, before he became Dr. M, was commenting on my post on LinkedIn. And this is probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know, quite a while ago. And when I would respond to him, I would type back Dr. M, hey, Dr. M, good comment, or whatever, right? And I didn't want to spell out his whole name. So I just call him Dr. M. The next thing I know, a couple weeks later, I started seeing posts from Dr. M. So he took that name and used it as his name. And now he's known as Dr. M. So I created Dr. M. And people say it's Frankenstein's monster, but it's a good monster. So, so anyway, that was the story about how Dr. M and I got going. Then we got talking about, hey, why don't you do a vodcast, which is what he started out with, and I was on the first one. So that's our relationship, and that's how we kind of got to know each other. And then when I went to Mumbai a couple of years ago, you and I met along with your lovely wife, and we physically met. So that was good too. Um, so, Dr. M, you and I talked a lot about all kinds of things with lean, and I know you've invoked your teachings from Imai and me with Shingajitsu with Iwata and Nakao, and also we talk a lot about Deming and Duran, who I personally briefly knew, um, and we start looking at all of the posts on LinkedIn, and we start looking at all the dialogue going back and forth, and there's an awful lot of dialogue out there about how leaders just don't get it. They're not understanding lean. They're not understanding the view of the world through the CI lens, CI being continuous improvement, or if you want to call it lean lens, and they're just not getting it. Now, there's always some truth to everything, right? And I'm not saying that that is totally false, but I'm also here to say that it's not totally complete picture of what's. And when I look at a lot of the people that are in the lean CI space, there's a failure overall, with a few exceptions, but there's a failure overall to understand how to communicate with leaders, especially the C-suite, the CEO, and all the people that report to the CEO. There's a failure to learn how to talk to them. So when you and I got together and talked about this, we said, well, there's there's two major things I think that have to be uh, developed in order for a lean professional to be effective in their job. One of them is to have a sense of business acumen. Okay, do they understand business? Many people, many CEOs, quite frankly, hire lean professionals who had, remarkable success running Kaizen events. And they could show you all the different Kaizen report outs. Hey, we took productivity from this to this and floor space from this to this and all that. And they end up hiring these these people who are skilled in that regard as people who are going to run a full transformation for their business. Okay. That's kind of like hiring a carpenter to be an architect. It's not his skill set. Okay. It's kind of like hiring a chef to run a restaurant. Well, the chef really knows how to make a really great meal, but what do they know about running a restaurant? So that's a mistake that gets made. Now, these CI professionals who are maybe just skilled in Kaizen and all that um, can learn. They can learn. So one of the things that's missing is the business acumen. Do they understand how business works? Okay. Everybody thinks they do, but in essence, they most don't. Okay. As a matter of fact, many people in the C-suite don't understand how business works. Okay, but let's leave that off the table for a minute because our focus today is on the lean community. Secondly, the other thing that's missing is financial acumen. Okay, does a CI professional understand the ins and outs of the financials? And when I say financials, I'm talking about all kinds of things. I'm talking about free cash flow. I'm talking about how do you calculate inventory turns off a financial statement? How do you calculate gross margin and cost of sales? Does anybody know what goes into cost of sales? Okay. What are the levers within a balance sheet? What about working capital turns? How do you calculate that? And why are they important? Right. One of my favorite measures you probably seen me talk about, and I know you and I talked about, Dr. M, is free cash flow as a percent of net income. I think that's a really good measure because not only does it talk about free cash flow, which really at the end of the day is key to this, but it also talks about what you do with the balance sheet, with your working capital accounts, and your capital expenditures, your expenditures for machinery and equipment. So so I know those things will get into more detail as you and I go on with your lounge and talk about all the math behind that and show you exactly how that all works and why it's important. So then you say to yourself, well, okay, so what? So I now know a little bit about business and strategy and markets and how you build a competitive advantage with a business. And I was lucky enough to have to work with I worked with George Sherman for almost a decade, who to me is one of the greatest strategists I've met, along with Larry Culp, who runs GE Aircraft Engines. I worked side by side with him for a decade, and I really got to understand strategy really, really well. And I was just lucky in that regard. And I also worked with some of the great lean minds of the world too, including Shingijutsu, the originators, first lieutenants from Shingijutsu, George Sherman, Art Byrne, George Koenigsegger, Bob Pentland. These people here were some of the best leading authorities on lean and still are out there today. So I got to work directly in their auspices too. So I got to see the business side and the lean side and how you put those two together to be able to make it work. And that really was one of the key things with the Danaher business system. And it's not really all that big of a mystery, quite frankly. But the Danaher business system worked. And because we had great leadership as well, and great strategies and great people. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Danaher was perfect because they're not. They still are not perfect. They weren't perfect when I was there. We had our issues too, just like everybody else does, right? But it's what you do with those issues. So let me take it back now to the business acumen and the financial acumen. When you go to a C-suite player and start talking to them about, hey, we have to get engagement and we really have to talk about respect for people and all this kumbaya stuff that lean people like to talk about. I am not at all saying that that stuff's not important. Okay. But when you lead with that and not understand how a leader, a C-suite player is compensated and what their bosses are asking of them and what's important to them, and you're going in with something that is just totally off the plantation with what's important to them at the moment, and they'll tell you that all that stuff, respect for people is important and all that. And I'm not saying they don't think that, but at the end of the day, that's not how they're getting measured. And that's typically how not their compensations are structured. So, and how they're being measured by their boss or the board or directors or whatever. So if we don't understand where they're coming from and what their world is like, but just expect them to automatically, be in our world, automatically just to understand all this stuff that we're learning in our little box called lean, when these leaders are dealing with a wide breadth of issues in the organization, okay, and think that the universe should exist 100% being just what these CI people are involved with, we are just talking past each other. And if we don't have a really, really good understanding of some of the basics, I'm not saying you're going to become next Michael Porter or some kind of financial guru, but what I am saying is if we don't have some mechanism to be able to at least have the conversation, okay, and start talking about, hey, if I went up to you, Mo, Dr. M, and said, as my leader, hey, by the way, I think I could take a point or two out of inventory and it's going to be worth $50 million in free cash flow. Now you're interested in talking to me. And there'll be a time and a place for me to start talking about engagement. There'll be a time and a place to me to start talking about how we solve problems at the lowest possible level. Because there's a lot of things wrong on the leadership perspective too, but they don't know sometimes. So we have to be able to get what I call a seat at the table and be able to at least open up the dialogue where they're at least listening to us. Because right now, and I talk to a lot of leaders, it's like, here in the United States, we had Charlie Brown cartoon, and when the teacher spoke, all you heard was wah 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 wah. The kids weren't listening to the teacher, right? And uh, and that's what's going on today. We're talking past each other. I wouldn't say we're talking past. We're not even communicating. Okay, so I really do believe if we can learn how to have a dialogue that deals with what is important to the C-suite, then we're going to have a lot more success in moving the needle, moving the ball down the field, if you will, to be able to get lean in um, as a cultural movement, as opposed to a program that goes in and whacks in a bunch of kaizen and gets some short-term gains. Okay, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, the whole lean organization gets laid off because it's not working. Okay, and that's happened at a lot of companies today. All right, so and that's a failure of leadership, quite frankly, in my opinion. But it doesn't matter. The leaders still get to keep their jobs, and the people on the other end lose. Okay, so anyway, I'll stop there. But if there's any questions or comments on your end, Dr. M, because that's really what I think you and I are trying to do here with the lounge, and what I'm going to also do with a subsequent parallel effort called Seat at the Table, similar type thing. And you and I are really interested in reaching out to as many people as possible around the world. And, and I think us combining forces, even if we have to repeat the program in mine and yours, we 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 want to be able to affect as much positive as possible. And you've developed a nice reach from Mumbai, and hopefully I could do the same thing here from North Carolina.
Thanks, Mark. What I propose to do, like what I do in on the Dr. M's launch, is this is a prelude. This is a primer sort of a thing, and I would pass it on, publish it, and I will invite enrollment for this launch. And whatever questions that they have, they can give it to us in writing much beforehand so that you can build it up into when you explain the various concepts that is linked with the questions and what you think is essential at that point of time during the launch. And there'll be interactive sessions which you can, and which we build on that instead of just giving us at this point of time technical equations. And thank you very much that you have introduced this. And I'm sure this will be, as I said, 101. And then we take this forward. Once I'm sure we just ignited a concept over here, which is quite dear and it's a felt need across the globe. And I'm sure our endeavor together, and you're going to take it forward with, I do not know, you're going to do a modular course on this so that people can dive deeper into it. This launch is going to be more as a curiosity seeker so that people get more interested and understand the necessity of understanding the business essential and the commercial essentials to get a seat on the table. This, as I exchange with you, I'm just opening the door to the C-suite chamber. After that, I'm sure they will get a seat at the table, and we're going to take it across to them. Thank you very much, and stay blessed. And I'm going to stop recording and move this forward for our doctorate launch, which may take place probably a week or fortnight from the day it is published on LinkedIn. Thank you very much, Mark, and nice of you to have been there for me. God bless and stay blessed.
Okay, Dr. You're my monster that I created, so I can't leave you.
Don't worry. I'll be there in US in July. Take care.
Okay, thank you.